Welcome to North Shore Vibe Presents. We have an amazing guest here this morning. We are on Northwestern University's campus here by the library, and I am very pleased and excited to welcome Miss Lily Aaron. Lily, welcome to North Shore Vibe Presents.
Thank you so much. This is such an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, how are you this morning? Feels like we got a little spring weather.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Loving the sunshine, definitely.
Yeah, any plans for today after the interview?
I got a big A-push test that I got to study for.
It doesn't stop, does it?
No, never.
All right, well, hopefully this will be a little break from studying.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about some fun stuff you and I are both passionate about, and talk about how we're making some differences.
Sounds good to me.
So I want to jump right in, and we've had the chance to talk on the phone a couple times and get some background, but I actually first came across your name, Lily, when I was reading the Daily Northwestern paper and saw about a meeting that you had had with Evanston City Council in which you spoke up in front of a big group of people. And I understand that there's a little more to that story than what I read in the article. So I wanted to start with that, talk about what you were doing with some Evanston politicians, what you guys were trying to accomplish, and how it came about that you were speaking in front of this group of people.
Yeah, so it was my sophomore year. I'm now a junior, so pre-COVID, but some of the E-Town Sunrise staff were going to speak at City Council to demand the implementation of CARP, which is the Climate Action and Resilience Plan.
Mm-hmm.
So basically like Evanston's version of the Green New Deal.
Got it.
And it had yet to be implemented, and it was passed in 2018, and by that point it was like early 2020, I believe, and they hadn't done anything with it. So I was just going to support, but then all of a sudden one of the staffers' moms comes up to me and she's like, Bella, who is one of the leaders, had to back out. So would it be Bella Hubbard? So
yeah.
she had to back out, and they asked if I could speak in her place, and I was like, and this was like 20 minutes before going up in front of City Council, so I was kind of scrambling, and everything was a little bit improv, but I got up there and I demanded that City Council, so all the aldermen I demanded that they would implement CARP, and they would do it at a much faster rate than they were doing it, and it was definitely nerve-wracking, but I got up there and I got it done.
So what is a City Council meeting like? How many people are in a room? How many politicians are there from Evanston? How many other participants are there? What was the room like?
It was packed with a bunch of other Evanston residents who had all of their own demands.
Yeah.
And also the 6 to 7 aldermen and board members.
So it's a full room.
Yeah, a bunch of older, scary white people.
And what were the nerves going through when someone comes up to you 20 minutes before and is like, hey, we need you to advocate for us in about 20 minutes. Are you ready? Go.
Kind of felt like all the blood drained from my face.
Right.
I was very, very nervous. I'm not the best public speaker, so not usually my forte, but I got it done.
Yeah, you were stretching yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And how did it go?
I think it went well. I had yet to figure it out, but City Council is actually broadcasted on a network I'm not entirely sure of, but
oh, great.
I did have people watching from home, so they did get to videotape it, and I saw it when I got home.
And people like myself read about it.
Yeah.
Which is great. So you mentioned CARP, the Climate Action Resilience Plan. For people who don't know what that is, talk to us a little bit about that. You mentioned it was passed in 2018, but things haven't happened yet. Mm-hmm. What are the demands that we're looking for out of CARP, and what are we trying to do to get things going a little bit?
So with CARP, it's all about demanding net zero carbon emissions by around 2025, 2030, renewable energy, green infrastructure. I really can't think of half of the stuff off the top of my head, but it's really everything that the Green New Deal would have encompassed. Talking about affordable housing and urban agriculture, and making it so that each and every resident has access to, as climate change continues to become more imminent with flooding and extreme heat, like what they need housing-wise to make sure that they're stable. So I mean, in addition to that, there's a bunch of other aspects that need to be expanded upon in CARP to make it so that it is as encompassing as we need it to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool. And how did you talk to me? I'm thinking about to what I was doing when I was 17, and it was not going in front of city council advocating for tighter restrictions on emissions, or thinking about how we support our community as the globe starts to heat up and weather becomes more volatile. How did you tell me what led up to that moment where you're in front of city council that got you interested in the climate and advocating for others that might not be able to advocate for themselves? Where did this interest come from?
Well, I've always loved the outdoors. It's kind of a given. I think from ages 7 to 14, I spent 2 months each summer at Thunderbird Camp for Girls, which is like this super rural, intense backpacking camp in Minnesota.
Got it.
And there I really explored my love for the outdoors, so that was really my basis for that. But after I had grown out of Thunderbird and I was looking for new things, my mom and I actually came up on the internet on this program called Road Less Traveled, where they offered a bunch of different volunteer opportunities and like summer camp sort of. And we signed up for this trip in Bonaire. Sorry, it was just me. Yeah. But
so you went alone to Bonaire, and where? What is Bonaire? Where is it?
Bonaire is about 45 miles off the coast of Venezuela in the ABC Islands.
Got it.
And I went as a part of a coral restoration trip. I had the privilege to go, and I really learned firsthand the extent of the havoc that has been wreaked across these communities that depend on the land for basically every aspect of their livelihood.
Right.
And, you know, you look up like coral reefs on Google and you're presented with these like grand, vibrant displays of life and like these amazing
great
ecosystems.
Color, big contrast. Yeah.
And I mean, I got in the water and it just was not that.
What did it look like?
It was just like this white dust.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't completely dead, but it certainly wasn't what Google had told me.
Right.
And it was really shocking to me. And once I got home, I mean, at least from my point of view as a white cis girl living in a pretty affluent part of Evanston, where I certainly don't have to face like the same extent of the climate crisis that is in Bonaire.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of looked at it as my responsibility to uplift the voices of those who are experiencing the brunt of climate change and environmental racism firsthand.
Right.
So using my platform and my privilege to organize these events and, again, uplift the voices of those who really, really, deal with this.
Right. It's interesting you say that there's like this moment where it clicks, and it sounds like for you it was looking at a very different picture of what you thought a coral reef was going to look like.
Yeah.
So we've had similar experiences with North Shore Vibe, where because of the affluence, you've gone to some beaches on Lake Michigan that look beautiful, there's no trash, and then you go to some different neighborhoods where all that trash and all that pollution seems to really pile in a very concentrated area. Mm-hmm. And you start to dig a little bit deeper into what's going on there, and you start reading that there's 20 plus million pounds of waste that goes into the lake. And if you don't live in a certain area, you don't experience the pain of what's going on with that. And which is a big reason of why North Shore Vibe likes doing beach cleanups and getting boots on the ground. So you came back to Evanston seeing this firsthand, and how did you figure out how to get involved? Was there groups that you already knew of? Did you go back to Google and figure out how can I start applying this passion of mine?
Yeah, so I had gone summer of my freshman year, so when I returned back from my sophomore year in high school, I'm thankful to live in an area that prioritizes climate change more than others. So
Right.
I definitely did not have
We have
to look
that going
far.
for us.
Yeah, I definitely did not have to look far to find like-minded people, and I really feel like I found those in E-Town Sunrise, which is not exactly an ETHS affiliated group, as they're a little more geared towards civil disobedience. But I started going to more meetings, and I started taking on more responsibilities, and through connections with that, I got in touch with CGE, which is Citizens Greener Evanston, and I started taking some more responsibility there. And I mean, everything is really interconnected.
Yeah.
So I was meeting more people, and I was discussing more topics, and it was kind of like the world opened a little bit. My
It's
horizons
a really
were
tight-knit
broadened.
community.
Yeah.
The Sunrise Movement, the way that I understand it, is it's a group of very passionate young individuals who have this worry for what's coming because of climate change, and are taking awesome action to start to fight that and push others to take action, like you were doing with the aldermen and city council. Talk to me a little bit more about the group and how you guys are led and the different initiatives you guys do within Evanston, or even broader than that, to
Of course.
try to get people more aware about these things that are going on.
Yeah, so the Sunrise Movement has chapters across the U.S., and it's just a group. I mean, it's a movement of people younger than 35 usually fighting towards or fighting against climate change and trying to create millions of green jobs in the process, and demanding federal and local officials for the climate policy that we need, and stressing the intersectionality of the climate movement in the process. So as it goes for events that E-Town Sunrise has planned, we just recently headed up a mayoral town hall centering the intersection of racial and climate justice with Evanston Fight for Black Lives, which is a super, super awesome organization in Evanston. So we interviewed Sebastian Knowles, Lori Keenan, and Daniel Biss, all on various questions regarding racial justice and climate justice in Evanston, which was super, super awesome. We've also planned a number of walkouts within ETHS.
Tell me more about that.
So actually, I was not present for one of them. I had yet to join the leadership team for the big one before we all had to leave. But we leave ninth period, and we walk to Fountain Square, where we usually have a big protest with signs, and we're demanding the attention of those around and local officials. And we also, this is at least for the July 4th defund EPD chalk out that we had this summer, or last summer, we had a big chalk out in Fountain Square, writing messages about how Black lives really need to matter in Evanston, and how we don't feel as though the city of Evanston has prioritized racial justice at least not to the extent that they need to be.
Right.
And we marched to the Evanston Police Department afterwards, and we displayed our displeasure there. So.
And what's the turnout for something like that? I imagine it's not hard to convince people to leave ninth period of school.
Yeah.
Right?
And also, then again, very thankful to be in a little bit more of a little bit more of a progressive community at ETHS. So people are more than willing to fight behind a cause, especially climate change and the intersectionality of that.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you from our behalf for bringing light to the issues that are important, but more importantly, taking action on it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
you mentioned ETHS. That's come up quite a bit, which is Evanston Township High School. And I understand that you've also met with the principal at the high school, and there's conversations going on about how the high school can become more green and more energy sufficient and sustainable. How are those conversations going?
At the end of the day, I think applaud is a big word, but I thank them for being a little bit more lenient in having those conversations, because I know peers who at their schools like aren't even able to have those conversations at all. But I mean, slowly but surely.
Yeah, chipping away.
Yeah. I think in regard to, we had a big Earth Month planned right before COVID hit, and we were able to have some really great conversations with one of our principals at ETHS, but then again, not nearly as much like action as we need.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
what do you think holds back the action? Because I know you were at the city council meeting because CARP had been passed in 2018. There hadn't been enough action.
Mm-hmm.
Things in the school move a little slow. As you've gotten involved in this, these are big changes, right? You're asking people to make big changes.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the learning from you about the process, about how these big changes actually happen? Sounds like one would be that it's slower than we would obviously like.
A long ass time.
Right.
And people are generally not geared towards understanding the extent to which the climate crisis applies to everything.
Right.
So when you're talking about climate curriculum and like I'm totally blanking, but like the need for renewable energy at ETHS, and like plastic water bottles, and like the true implementation of composting in our cafeterias, it's kind of like people will shut down a little bit. Right. Because it's really overwhelming.
Yeah.
So kind of approaching it in a manner that is a little more simple.
Yeah.
Is
just because
the
the changes are overwhelming for people to actually do and implement?
And because there's so much to be done.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So if you had, I'm curious, did you guys have any goals, and maybe this has all changed with COVID happening, because I know it's easier to get things done in person as it is over Zoom, but near-term and long-term future plans, if you guys had goals for Evanston, what's the near thing on the horizon? Is it quicker implementation of CARP? Are there other things that are more pressing for you guys? What's on the radar right now?
Definitely the implementation of CARP. And within CARP, there's sort of a community outreach program that enables all Evanston residents to really delve into what the climate crisis is and how it applies to them, and what Evanston services they have to combat it, is something that I really think we need. I mean, I guarantee you that 75% right. of Evanston residents don't know what CARP is.
Right.
And they don't know what the city of Evanston is doing to prepare for the climate crisis and how that applies to them. And I think that aspect of implementing CARP is really crucial.
Yeah.
Secondly, like I said a little bit earlier, climate curriculum, both in District 202 and District 65. So having sustainability coordinators, really having a set curriculum to, let ninth graders as well as second graders know that this is what we're dealing with, right. And not really sugarcoating it, and how they understand that, again, this applies to everything, and how they need to be equipped to deal with it.
Yeah. I was talking to my wife earlier about our interview, and I used to coach basketball. And I still coach and do some tutoring actually in the Evanston system and some schools in the city. And what I love about Generation Z is that you guys, first off, have more access to information than any generation has ever had, right? And you guys know how to use it. The smartphone in your hand or the tablet, whatever you guys are using, it has power and there's knowledge behind that. The next step of that is taking action off all that information and knowledge that you guys have. And when I came across your article and I started seeing more like that across the Chicago area, across the country, think of people like Greta Thunberg, these people who are so educated on a topic, passionate, and then they're taking it to the next level to take change at such a young age. And I think something that is cool that you often hear about when someone meets a impressive high school student is, oh, they've got great potential. But people like you guys are already getting things done. It's not potential. You guys are moving the ball right now. And I'm curious, speaking for you and other people your age, when you're meeting with people that are older and are in positions where they have power because of their title, do you guys feel like there's that mutual respect between what you guys are doing, and despite the age you guys are doing it, is there good conversation back and forth, and do you feel that your opinions are heard and well received and those kind of things?
Generally speaking, no. I think in like 85% of the interactions I've had with older officials, it's like constantly being written off as naive or too radical or just too young to really understand what we're talking about or what I'm talking about. And frankly, it's quite annoying.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, youth are like deeply connected to this work. So when we're told that we don't know what we're talking about and that this is something we should leave to adults, when we're the ones trying to hold them accountable, it's really irritating.
Right.
And I think that, I mean, like once in a blue moon, I can have a conversation with like an Evanston official who like even slightly understands where I'm coming from. But in terms of legitimate change, it's, I mean, again, with the principal thing, it's like chipping away.
Right.
But it's definitely a process.
Right. And from their perspective, you know, they've got the view probably that you talk about change being slow, and that I'm sure everybody loves the idea of composting from the cafeteria or finding renewable energy sources to power the building. As you get older and become an adult, I'm sure some of them have had such bad experiences about trying to actually do good and change, and it was such a logistical nightmare that they hear these awesome projects come up and they're just like, oh my gosh, can you imagine actually trying to figure out how to do that? Where I think the great perspective that younger people bring, especially when they're knowledgeable and well researched, is that sometimes it is just that simple. You just got to go figure out how to do it. And then these experiences of the world as people get older kind of, I don't know, it just makes them feel like there's going to be a lot of work involved in that. And I think that demotivates a lot of people to actually go out and do it, you know?
Yeah.
But which is interesting. Well, North Shore VOD, Lily, we're happy to give you a platform. We're so glad you're here. And people your age that love the environment, we love talking with you, and anything we can ever do to help you guys, that's what we're here for.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. So what's next for you personally? You're 17, you're a climate activist, you're making change here in Evanston. Do you have time to think about college and what you want to do as an adult? Is that too far away?
Oh, you know, as for college, yeah, that's definitely the direction I'm going in. Unfortunately, while this weather is absolutely lovely, the Midwest is not my forte. No,
really?
No hate on Lake Michigan, but definitely looking more
You
West
want
Coast.
warmer?
Yes.
That's a fair. You and many other people, I think.
So, like having that access to more outdoorsy stuff is definitely something I'm interested in. So I've been looking around like Pitzer, UC Santa Cruz, University, Seattle, Washington, Reed, Lewis and Clark, schools like that, which also have really good environmental studies and like marine studies programs and like oceanography, which is something I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I would really love to do. As for after that, which is a ways away, so I'm not entirely sure.
You don't have the whole life plan mapped out yet?
No, not just
yet.
Okay,
good. You got plenty of time for that.
There's this thing called woofing, which I think I have notes on it. I don't know what it is exactly, like the acronym, but it's like something like worldwide organizing farming. That definitely wasn't it.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to know the difference, so you can tell me whatever it is.
Yeah, so they send you basically to any location across the world in a farm,
Mm-hmm.
and in exchange for work on the farm or the ranch, they provide you with room and board, and you get like this really awesome experience, and you get to experience wherever you are.
Very cool.
Actually, one of the previous E-Town Sunrise hub coordinator, Bella Hubbard, actually told me about it. She did a program in Costa Rica, I think, and
So it's something you can do in college.
Yes,
Got it.
I think so. But she said it was absolutely amazing, and it's something that I'm really interested in.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds like it would be a great experience.
yeah,
Do you have interest in agriculture?
definitely.
Yeah.
Currently in urban agriculture at the high school, which is
Yeah.
something I really, really love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So when you got involved in this and you had the coral reef experience that totally sounds like kind of rocked your world and opened your eyes to some of this stuff, did you ever think you'd be involved in this political capacity and speaking in front of these people? Do you ever remove yourself back and kind of think, I'm a junior in high school and I'm in front of the principal, I'm in front of the alderman in Evanston? Does that just kind of seem like normal status quo for what you guys have been doing?
Kind of like normal status quo. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like
It is
part
what
of
it
the
is now,
everyday
right?
thing now.
Yeah.
I mean, having these conversations with the ETHS administration, and now Daniel Biss as mayor is just something that's kind of, I don't know, part of the schedule.
Right. And what are our feelings on that? Because I understand you were involved in the mayoral race, correct?
Yeah, just a bit. I helped a little bit on Daniel Biss's climate policy, but to be honest with you, at the town hall,
Mm-hmm.
when I was helping interview the candidates, I really, really thought that Sebastian Knowles was very well spoken and very articulate, and I thought that what his plans were for Evanston were really, really inspiring and
Yeah.
really achievable. So that was, and I thought that, no hate on Daniel or
Right.
Lori, I thought their responses were a little bit similar
Yeah.
and a little bit not as radical as we needed.
Politician-y, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And is Daniel Biss, is he optimistic with climate change? What's kind of his stance on moving forward with CARP and some of the other initiatives that E-Town Sunrise has been pushing?
Well, so with all the candidates, definitely all for furthering CARP implementation and doing it at a faster rate than we have been,
Yeah.
which I'm very thankful for. E-Town Sunrise has yet to have talks with him, but I'm sure that is something that will happen in the very near future.
Mm-hmm.
But as for the implementation of climate curriculum and, I mean, everything that goes under CARP, I've yet to talk to him about it, but I definitely think it's something that he's willing to talk about and further discuss.
That's good.
Yeah.
So when we do North Shore Vibe and we talk about trying to be good to the environment, the way that we activate people is we try to get people out to a beach cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk to them about what we see in terms of pollution going in, and then once people actually start digging around the beach a little bit and see all the plastic and the paper goods and the beer bottles left out, that's really that experience where I think it settles into people that this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious from your perspective, whether it's something E-Town Sunrise related or just educating Evanston or North Shore residents more on what's going on in the area. If you had one ask of them or one piece of advice on go to this website to read more about X or Y or Z, what would that ask be if you could choose just one thing?
Oh, man.
And it's probably hard to get it just down to one.
I might have to go with like 1.5 asks.
Okay, 1.5's fair. We can deal with that.
One, like I said earlier, listen to your kids. We know, I mean, at least to some extent, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's really, really difficult when we are the generation that is going to bear the brunt of this crisis, yet we're not the ones being listened to.
Right.
And we have so much information, and again, we are so deeply connected to this work that, like, we have shit to say.
Right.
And if you give us the time to sit down at the dinner table and discuss for like 20 minutes what is going on and how it applies to you and how you can help, it will certainly make a difference. Secondly, this is the half part. No shame in the individual action game.
Mm-hmm.
While it is definitely crucial to acknowledge that the elite few and leaders of these huge corporations that are exploiting the environment are to blame for this crisis, buying sustainably, like choosing to bike or carpool when you have the opportunity, and really just everything that goes under that category is good. But then again, within that conversation is the aspect of accessibility in the environmental movement, which is a whole nother conversation on its own.
Right.
But yeah.
And just so people know, I did not ask Lily to just plug eco-friendly apparel from North Shore Vibe.
Yeah.
That just naturally came up. So kudos to Lily for making that transition. Before, I've got a question I want to end with, but before we get there, you mentioned big corporations and individuals at the top who are more worried about padding their corporate profits as opposed to making sure that the earth is going to be beautiful for the next 5 to 10 generations. I was thinking about the planet last night and how people have different views of the planet. And I think a lot of those corporations, and maybe the individuals don't view it this way, but the corporation views it this way, they view it as a resource. Something that is at their disposal, that they have the right to use whenever they want, and if it's there, they should take it. I was thinking a little differently, that planet is a gift, Earth is a gift to be shared by everyone. And before you take any action as if you're getting a shared gift, there's consideration that has to happen of what's the impact of this going to be on Lily, on other people in Evanston. And I think your generation really has that consideration. I'm curious, what did I get wrong in that? I'm curious if you view the planet the same way, or if your generation has any thoughts on how you actually view taking advantage. I'm looking at the lake right now, taking advantage of all the beauty there is here, and versus other people that just view it as a resource for their personal or corporation gain.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of that. Honestly, off the top of my head, I can't find anything wrong with what you said, but I think understanding the role that environmental racism and like colonialism and just like American like expansion has to do with like the trauma that has caused by POC, and how it's, I mean, they are like at the forefront of this.
Right.
And we need to prioritize their well-being. And yeah, I could have worded that better,
that's
but
good.
that's all I got.
That was a good sum up. So
Yeah.
Before we end things, Lily, this is a fun question. We like to ask people about if they have one favorite restaurant in the Evanston or North Shore area, favorite coffee shop. I'm curious if anything comes to mind for you for if you've got a go-to spot. What's that going to be?
Of course. Restaurant-wise, gotta go with Al's Deli.
No hesitation.
Never.
You were ready for that one.
So
talk to me about Al's Deli.
Al's Deli, cute little French sandwich place, right next to Piven Theater, which is on Noyes Street.
Okay.
Best sandwiches in town, guaranteed. Personally,
yeah. What should we get when we go there?
They got a bunch of options, but my personal favorite, roast beef sandwich on a baguette, lettuce, tomato, onion, no mayo or mayonnaise, a little bit of brie, and then a Joe's green tea on the side is my go-to.
Wow, that was not specific at all.
But you can switch it up a little bit. And then coffee shop right next door, Coffee Lab.
Okay.
So
you like to keep it all on the same street?
Grab and go sort of
I like
situation.
That. Yeah, what are you getting from Coffee Lab?
oat milk chai, probably the largest size, no shame.
As big as you can get.
Yeah. And then they have these little peanut butter cookies.
Ooh.
I love them. Also, maybe if it's a morning, they get scones from Great Harvest.
Yep.
Which blueberry is the way to go.
What's your take on the Evanston bakery competition? Because there's a lot of good bakeries in Evanston. There's Great Harvest, there's Hune, there's a couple others up on Central, Benison's.
Tags.
Do you have how do you decide which one to go to?
You know,
I have a hard time with that.
Yeah. Great Harvest, I think they're all good for their own reasons.
Yeah.
Great Harvest, Apple Scrapple, definitely up there. But as it goes for like good loaf of sourdough, I've got to go with Hune.
Hune's, there's a reason the line is out the door every time you walk by it. And it's because it's good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Pretty much.
All right, I'm with you. You heard it. Al's Diner.
Al's Deli.
Al's Deli.
You got it.
Coffee Lab. That's the recommendation. Lily, thank you so much for coming on North Shore Vibe Presents. And even more importantly, thank you for what you're doing for our environment, our community, pushing a greener earth with diversity and thinking about all the right people. I'm really honored to have you on the show this morning. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. This is so awesome.
Yeah, and North Shore Vibe is here for you and when you guys need us.
Awesome. We'll definitely keep that in mind.
All right. Thanks, Lily.
Thank you.